don't wish to. So I would like to welcome you to this session on platform economy. My name is Untitled Chapter. I'm an economist and political scientist. I teach here in Berlin at the Einstein Center of Digital Future, and I also teach in South Africa at the Stellenbosch University. I would like to welcome you, and we will have a session on the importance of platforms for the Arab economy. We also are discussing the topic of automation of factory plants. That is a topic that is very closely connected to platforms. And the good thing is that I think when I started talking about this topic 3 or 4 years ago, it was a very vague kind of thing. The fascinating thing is now that we have lots of examples from the Arab world, and I'm very happy that I have guests here with me who can demonstrate to you what is happening in the Arab world in the context of platforms, and also in the context of smart production and smart factories. So allow me to give you a short overview of what are we going to do in the next hour. I will be giving you a short introduction about the role of platforms also in the development of the Arab economies, and of the possibilities of mitigating some of the shortcomings of structural shortcomings of the Arab economy. Next, we have our distinguished guest Ahmed Tantaj from Jordan, from the company Jordan Invest. Ahmed Tantaj is a co-owner, and he's CEO of this company, and he also founded and chaired lots of other companies. I think with him he will have the CEO of Abjad, and he will give us a short introduction about what does it take to build a platform in the Arab world, how does it look like, where are the best places to do that, and topics like that. I'm also very happy that my colleague Ines Amri, also from the Einstein Center of Digital Future, is with me. Ines has been working on a research project that deals with the possibility of building up platforms in Tunisia, and she will give us a short overview on how digital business is picking up slowly but surely in the region. Last but not least, I'm also very happy that we have Cynthia Abu Khater from the company Technica International from Beirut with us. Cynthia is head of strategy there and also shareholder of the company. And Cynthia told me yesterday on a call that she has been into automation for quite some time, and automation has been with the Arab region for some decades. So I'm very happy that we have her here, and she will give us an overview on the topic of automation in the Arab world. So as you can see, I think we have an interesting program. We have interesting people. So if you allow me, each of them will give a short speech of about 10 to 15 minutes, and then we are open to question. You can use the microphone, of course, or you can also use the chat function available to you. So if everything's fine, then allow me to start. Why are platforms important? And I try to link this topic to the structural problems of Arab economies, and try to figure out, does automation solve some of the problems that we have in the Arab world? So what are the typical structural problems of Arab economies? They usually have a limited internal mass market. Even interestingly enough, even in big countries, but surely in smaller countries like Tunisia, you have a limited investment goods industry. So you have no companies that produce machines that produce goods. So there is this constant fear then of inflation risk, because in order to use funds, you have to import machines first to produce something, because you don't have a national investment goods industry. You have no agricultural surplus. That's very interesting, because all of the successful Asian countries had an agricultural surplus at the beginning, and that allowed them to devaluate their currencies and make their exports cheaper. This is not happening in the Arab world, as there is no country that has an agricultural surplus. Last but not least, interesting enough that higher education in the Arab world still is focusing on the public sector. And there seems to be a low demand from private and from the informal sector. So there's a mismatch between supply and demand. So looking at our topic platforms, what can they do? They can increase the market size, because in cyberspace you have, of course, a bigger market than in the physical world. You can create also via platforms marketing venues for small, medium-sized companies that cannot invest in their own marketing function. And I will show you the example of a Taobao function in China here. You have new jobs, you have job and education matching, you have lifelong learning paths that are possible in the digital world. On the other hand, looking at the Arab world, you have a lack of payment functions, you have lack of delivery functions, and you have lacking agencies for matching jobs and education. But on the other hand, these are also chances for building up local platforms. I think the issues for automation are a bit less clear. On the other hand, why is that so? Because the Arab world has never been famous for producing things, and has been also historically very important in trading things, but not in making things. So what is possible now in the automated world, that you can produce goods using machines, multi-machines, data algorithms, where you sometimes don't even need to have an experience, and you can just simply use those machines and start producing. So the factors of limited experiences is not so much strong here. However, you will have job losses, which could also be a huge problem. You could have, the good thing about automation is you can produce still local products and distribute them via platforms. Then we have the problem that we have no national and no regional, or few national, few regional platforms in the Arab world that could do that. And you could have via automation also the possibility to increase the agricultural production via smart and open agriculture. Interestingly enough, agriculture is not the focus of Arab startups for some reason. So agriculture is not deemed to be a very sexy topic. Our last estimate was that only 2% of Arab startups are focusing on agriculture. So in summary, a very important topic. The pros and cons are very well distributed in the Arab world. So let's see what is happening. I share you this picture, which hopefully, I hope it's not too complex. We are producing this for the South African Presidential Committee for Digitization, where we try to outline the importance of platforms. And you can see here platforms in a sense of business to consumer or business to business platforms. They are very important in aggregation, distribution, and innovation. What does it mean? It means that they can distribute products from traditional cooperation and startups. They can aggregate demand, they can aggregate supply, and they can also help in the area of innovation. So there are distinct kind of platforms that are responsible in bundling innovation forces and making them available to companies. So quite an important role, I would say. When it comes to platforms, I think it's that's a filling kind of topic. We can talk about it for hours, but I think for our purposes, it's sufficient to understand that there are two important kind of platforms. One is business to consumer, and the other one is business to business. And there are, in the business to consumer side, we see transaction platforms that are focusing on advertising, on lean production, on distributing products, on distributing, making available cloud spaces. And also, as I mentioned before, we have innovation platforms like Androids, like Apple, Watson, and we also have importantly foundations like Linux, Apache, Mozilla that are working with crowd workers from all over the world. That is, they try to make usage of the talent that is available all over the world and make it available to their product innovation systems. Then on the other side, you have business to business, and this is a very interesting topic. And here we try to connect machines. So where in the first, in the business to consumer side, we are trying to connect consumers with the platform. Here we are connecting machines. And that is very important for countries like Germany, which have been have a very strong capability on building investment goods. And what they're trying to do is now they connect the machines via sensors and via the internet and try to build self-regulating kind of production places. In this area, we have less players. We have companies like Siemens with their MindSphere project. We have Microsoft, and we have General Electric. So when I talk to a German CEO about the situation, Germany, for instance, considers itself as not being able to do anything in the business to consumer area, because I quote here, this has been taken by American and Chinese platforms. However, Germany seems to be very strong, for instance, in the business to business area. What does that mean for our discussion here? There was an interesting report from the United Nations about the possibilities to still build local platforms. And that has to do with the shortcomings of many countries in the global south. So here we can still use persons as interfaces, as a physical supply chain, because of lack of delivery services, for instance. So there is a possibility to build not only the last mile of the platform, but also to have some kind of regional or local versions of platform that are better geared to the situation on the ground. Again, showing us something from South Africa that's very interesting. So South Africa believes that platforms are very essential in dealing with the country's problems, especially the topic of unemployment. As you can see here in the upper graphic, South Africa is trying to build labor-absorbing platforms. What does that mean? It's basically crowd working, where South Africa tries to make available resources in the area, for instance, of programming or innovation and communication and the like, and making it available to the world market without those people needing to emigrate. What you see in reality is always a mix of the old and the new. And I'll show you an example that's a bit older, but still very fascinating, of a German wholesale retailer called Metro, and they invested in India. And what you have done in India is you have a small Indian shop, or in the Arab world you can say a dukan, something like that. But all the processes at the back are fully automated and are in the hand of this Metro platform. So while the traditional shop still looks like a traditional shop, everything that has to do with logistics, with marketing, is in the hand of a platform. And that of course is very interesting, because it can combine the two worlds. On the other hand, it gives the platform lots of power. And nobody knows how this game is going to end at the end of the day. I mentioned before the Taobao villages, and I think it's a very interesting example that can show you how to use platforms in order to develop your economy and also your local and rural economy. Taobao means that Huawei and Alibaba made agreements with villages in China, which you see here, those red dots. For some reason, they're all at the coast. They try to figure out, what is this village producing very, very well? Also, what is the best product that we can make available to the market? And they made an agreement with the village for marketing this good. So you can see here that it's very important to have those platforms, because they can distribute, they can market goods not only on the local market, but in the case of Alibaba, then suddenly you have a world market. And that could also, of course, be interesting for smaller and medium-sized or even informal companies in the Arab region. That also means that smaller companies or new entrepreneurs that have been restricted to local markets before suddenly have new venues for marketing their project. So if they are very clever, they can not only sell their products in the immediate market, but use platforms and go global from one day to another if they are very good at marketing. So there is also a chance for traditional companies embracing this platform topic. 2 or 3 years ago, this ad appeared saying that the Arab world will try to build a kind of fashion platform and that could create 20 million jobs for women in the Arab world. Interestingly enough, the platform had the idea of creating some kind of division of labor for Arab countries. So they thought that the North African countries would produce the textile. Then the dresses would be designed and made in the Levant, and the Gulf Arabs would do the distribution and marketing. I tried to figure out what happened to this idea. I couldn't find anything on the internet. Nevertheless, I think it is very interesting to use platforms in order to create jobs and to support the local industry. When I was in Jordan in beginning of 2019, everybody was very excited, because that was the time that Souk, one of the successful Arab platforms in the retail area, was being bought by Amazon. And I remember we had a discussion with the, at that time, Minister of Technology in Jordan. And he was very proud, saying, okay, this shows that the Arabs can do the same as everybody else. And if you sell your platform for $500 million, then this is very interesting. However, my point was that if you use the control of your local or regional platform, then you also lose the possibilities of leveraging your own industry. And you see here the press release by Amazon. And if you look at the topic, and I think it's the third bullet point from above, the reason that Amazon saying we are moving into this region is to give more access to US-based sellers expanding in the region. So you see here immediately the connection between the ownership of a platform and the possibilities of leveraging goods and services. And so far, and the same is happening in Europe, so far, all the successful local platforms, as soon as they become visible, and they will be sucked up by international big platforms. So that's, of course, very, very much money for the people who had the idea, but I'm not sure whether this is a very good news for the local markets. Last topic is, and very strongly connected, is the topic of automation. And what is happening here is that machines will be used, connected machines, as I explained before, will be used to substitute human labor in the production process. The interesting thing here is, if looking at the history of technology, was that most of the machines have not been built to support human, but always to substitute human. So the idea would be, at the end game, so to say, would be to have a lights out factory. Lights out factory meaning that you could turn off the light, but the machines would still be working. So it's become a term for a factory that is not using too many humans, but is mainly using machines in order to do the production process. And of course, the interesting thing about the lights out factory is, if you look at futuristic kind of description of what is going to happen, is that the interesting thing is you can build the lights out factory anywhere. You can have it anywhere, because you don't need local skills too much. You still need very skilled people, but you don't need hundreds of them. You probably need a handful, or 50 or 100, but you can build the company anywhere. The question then is, why should any country wish to have that factory if it doesn't create jobs? Then the answer would be because the company would pay taxes, and with those taxes you could have money and support your local population. So that could be a possible game for that. In the meantime, and I again show you an example here in Germany, fully automated companies are still advancing. They are not here yet, at least not in many industries. What is happening though, and you see here the example of the German car industry, is that we find situation where the human and the robot are collaborating. So before that, remember, the old robots, they were in a cage, and it was very, very dangerous to go near them, because nobody knew what happened when you touch them and things like that. Now as you can see in the picture here, they have so sensitive kind of organs that they could collaborate with the human and even touch the human and hand over parts to the human. So in the meantime, we have a kind of symbiosis between the humans and the robots. Does that mean that the robot company or the fully automated company is a closed shop? No, on the contrary, you can see here that again, digitization is being used to open up companies and to allow people who have ideas and want to collaborate with this company and offer their skills do have the possibility to work on the product, to develop the product. And even companies like Tesla, for instance, have donated their patents and their design. So it could be you now have access to all the secrets of Tesla's, for instance, electro engines. So you could basically download it and start producing it by yourself. And that, of course, also entails some chances also for the Arab economy and for people that are interested in product development. Of course, the downside is job losses, and that's a big topic here in Germany, and I would assume that will also be a topic in the developing world. As you can see here, the first estimates are that job losses are not so much happening in the developed world. Why? Because they are building the machines, but they will rather be in the global south. So some strategies, we published this paper some time ago, but I think what is interesting here is, do we have the possibility to build regional platforms or national platforms? And do we have the possibility also to embark on automation and build factories that are competitive on the world market? Is that possible? And I think this will be the topic I would like to hand over to our next speaker, Ahmed Tantash, and then we carry on. Thank you so much. If there are any questions, please send me just a chat and we will try to pick it up later. Or is there any question I could answer right now? Okay. Then Ahmed, please, your turn.
Thank you, Iyad. If you don't mind, I'm going to share my screen now. And can you see my screen?
Yep.
Okay. So in my presentation, first of all, thank you very much for inviting me to speak at this event. It's a pleasure to be with all of you. I'm going to divide the presentation into, with the limited time we have, into three sections. One of them is, the digitization in the Arab world and the startup ecosystem. And then move a little bit to talk about Jordan and the history of startups and digitization and the current status in Jordan. And then talk about, hand over actually to Iman, who's with us today on the call, to speak about Abjad. She's the founder and the CEO of Abjad. And she will probably give us a hands-on experience about, starting a business and she's still midway through the journey, if not even at an advanced stage. So, I just wanted to show some discrepancies that exist in the Arab world. I'm sure that most of you know this. We have little content of Arabic, Arabic content on the internet, 2 to 3% of what exists now, compared to an Arabic-speaking population of 630 million, which is almost a very big population that, a big percentage of the world population. But still, we don't have enough Arabic content. And most of the Arabic content actually is today focused on music and film, but not really other types of content. The internet and the mobile penetration in the Arab world can be an issue in some areas, although we do have some good coverage of the mobile in areas, in major areas of the Arab world. But still, we do not have that penetration that exists in the developed world. Also, there is a low number, probably in percentage-wise big compared to the developed world that say that they have never used the internet. But these issues affect the process of digitization and the penetration. And as you can see, some Arab countries are more fortunate than some other. For example, the Arab Gulf states are more fortunate than Jordan and Lebanon and of course Yemen at one point of time. Okay, how do I move to the next one? Okay, so just to give some ideas about again some statistics. 3% of the Arab continent, 40% internet penetration in the Middle East, and 87% users in the Middle East access the internet from home. So 87% of the internet users are actually going into their internet from homes. Here are some numbers related to countries. As you can see, Kuwait is one of the highest penetrations, and then it goes down to Lebanon is second, then Jordan, then Palestine, then Iraq, then Libya, then Sudan, Algeria, Morocco, Tunisia, Egypt, and Yemen. And of course, the population plays a role also. The number of people living in a certain country is also playing a role in terms of the usage of the internet. Now, of course, there are certain areas where we believe that increasing the digital Arabic content is key for a global development. And there are some requirements to do that. For example, if you increase the penetration, if you increase the bandwidth of the internet, then people will be able to use it more. They will be able to download and upload more content, and therefore some less fortunate people can actually be able to join the economy, whether it's the local, the regional, or the global economy, such as, for example, you have new job opportunities for women who do not work, and they can work from home. They can actually, some of them have high skills, but we're not able to commercialize it. We're not able to penetrate certain markets. Now they have the opportunity to do this by using the internet. Just some statistics about startups in the MENA region. We have 18, I think this statistic was until end of last year, 18,368 startups in the MENA region, and this includes also Turkey and Pakistan. There are 4,138 investors and enablers. There has been 6,100 funding rounds in our region, and so far 200 exits. And here we mention some of the prominent enablers such as Venture Souq and Wamda Capital. And in Jordan, you have Oasis 500, you have Endeavor and other either enablers, accelerators, or VC funds. As you can see, there has been an increase in the value of money invested in the startup scene in the Arab world in May 2021 compared to May 2020. It was not the number of deals, but it was the size of the deals that has increased, which tells you that there aren't many projects in the pipeline, but there are actually few projects that have gone from a certain stage to another, and therefore money is going into these projects. Saudi has reigned the amount of money invested in May 2021, and that tells you that they're venturing into that scene. And we can see that e-commerce is actually coming back in the MENA region, especially with COVID-19 and people sitting at home, doing their shopping online. So there has been a return, actually an increase of almost 1,000% in funding in the e-commerce in the MENA region, which is a significant amount. This slide, I believe it's very hard for people to read, but these are the number of companies that have started in Jordan and were able, some of them made it through different rounds of financing and could not continue. Some of them succeeded and are still in the process of developing their products and markets. And some of them actually, succeeded in terms of exit or have their market share. It's in different sectors, whether it's edtech, e-commerce, entertainment, fintech, data mining, the robotics. It covers almost the whole spectrum, and has been, Jordan has been actually acting as, if I may call it, a test bed for products and for companies to prove the viability of the company and the product. However, I mean, if we talk about the ecosystem, and by the ecosystem, I mean, how many people, the number of people that are knowledgeable and educated to start a startup, and Jordan is rich in that, and they can produce a good talent as far as that is concerned. And then the easiness of starting up a company and a business, and putting it in a legal framework. And the number of enablers that do exist, whether they're incubators or accelerators, and VCs at a later stage. All of this actually does exist in Jordan, and we've seen examples of a number of startups. The issue is when these companies start in Jordan, they have a proven product, they have a proven business model, but then the market size is not, the market size and the buying power is not strong, and therefore they tend to first of all venture into the region. They go into the UAE and Dubai and sometimes Egypt, and they try to venture into these markets so that they have the scalability and the market size, which you will find in all of these countries. So you've seen companies start in Jordan, move into regional places, and then they would become actually an acquisition target, sometimes to a VC, or sometimes to a strategic investor. And I agree with you 100%, Iyad, in terms of is the target of these businesses just to exit to a strategic investor such as Souq exiting to Amazon, or for us to keep the platform and therefore providing opportunity for manufacturers in the region and consumers? And I always remember the example of Arabic word processing when we talk about Arabic content. When in the past, before Microsoft Word was Arabized, a lot of word processing companies came into the market, and they had the design of the fonts, and it was they were able to compete at one point in terms of word processing. But the second Microsoft came into the market and they acquired some of these businesses and Arabized their word processor, there was no demand for those scattered Arabic word processors. And I see the same thing happening today in platforms. Amazon coming and buying Souq, Yahoo buying Maktub at one point of time. Those were all Arabic content again, or Souq with a regional experience in terms of distribution and logistics. So that's another thing. And again, when we talk about the ecosystem, we talk about financing, we talk about the tax system, we talk about incentives, we talk about providing financing through different phases of the project, whether it's at seed or whether at Series A or B, and then exiting, doing the big exit at one point of time. So again, I talked about some of the projects that succeeded at the time. For example, Maktub, Souq, and Magnet is also one of the successful products in the region. And Abjad is an Arabic ebook reading platform that was founded and managed, by my colleague Iman Haylouz, who's with us on the call. And Iman, are you there?
Yes, I'm there. I'm with you.
So if you don't mind, I'm going to hand it over to you to talk a little bit about Abjad, which is, again, the Arabic e-reading book platform. Iman is the founder and the current CEO and the biggest shareholder of this business. So I'll hand over to you, please.
Sure. First of all, thank you, Mr. Ahmed, for this opportunity. And thank you, everyone, for having me and for having such an interesting conference talking about a very important gap in the internet and in the Arab world that luckily I've been like participating a little bit there by founding Abjad. We started Abjad long time ago. It started first in 2012. And it started as a social network that has all the Arab readers talking and reviewing and quoting and rating the Arabic books. And the community right now has above 1.5 million Arabic readers from all over the world. Towards building the social network and seeing people discussing books, the business model actually to transfer this into business has came from the user feedback that we got from the community, because everyone was asking, where can I read this book? How can I get this book? And at the beginning, we had the idea of, after creating this huge community talking about books, it would make sense to actually start selling print books to them, to become just yet another e-commerce book platform that sells print books to people and deliver it to their door. But the user feedback has came to a part where no, we don't want to have the print book. We can actually get the print book, but we want to have it online. We want to read it through our smartphones, our tablets, and have access to all this content in a let's say legal and standard and very high standard way of having an ebook. So this is when we hit the market of the publishing scene, and we realized that the bigger gap happens that we have like more than 4,000 Arabic publishers among 1 million books in publishing, yet zero of those are actually online or have the minimum online presence. So we were the first in the market to hit an Arabic publishing scene with the authors and the publishers that never worked in Arabic ebooks. And we started educating them on what an ebook is and how to digitize their content, let alone that a lot of the books, they were not even ready to be digitized because the source files are not there or whatsoever of the Arabic content. So we started working heavily on that. We signed now with we have now more than 100 publishers, and among the top 20 publishers in Jordan, in Lebanon, in Egypt, UAE, Saudi Arabia, we also have them all with all their books. We started the model at first that we were selling the ebooks to people, so you would pay for each ebook that you're reading, and then we realized that the media world is all going through the subscription, whether it's Netflix and Rami, Kindle Unlimited, Script, all these kind of media is always sold using subscription model. So we were also the first in 2017 to switch and pivot our model to become a subscription model where people pay a monthly subscription to get unlimited access to a library of ebooks that is always growing, but the subscription fee remains the same. And this is when we made it, and we started making revenue, started growing, and the publishers and authors, they started seeing revenue coming from this part of the world, while this part of the world has been always for the piracy, and this is where everyone was stealing their content without paying them. So this is where we switched, and we started to focus on the ebook platform and the subscription platform, signing with publishers, increasing the library of ebooks, investing a lot in the product, whether it's in our Android application, iOS, we're now on Huawei, and we have a web application, and later we're going to introduce more and more platforms to be on Windows, on Mac, on Kindle. Just end of 2020, we, although it was a tough year, but for us, it was like a very good year, because this is when we raised our Series A, 1 million, to grow our product, invest in the technology, invest in the number of ebooks and the content acquisition, and of course, invest in the marketing to make more people know about Abjad. And this is when Mr. Ahmed joined our board now, along with 2 other investors also from Jordan. So, but this is our story in short, and I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Thank you, Iman. So that's a hands-on story, and Iman is with us. So if there are any questions,
there was Iman. Thank you very much for giving us this story. Also, thank you very much, Ahmed. There was one question in the chats pointing to the direction about local and regional legislations and regulations that are not always friendly towards platforms. Could you discuss that as well? What is your take on that? Were the regulations were they suitable in the case of Jordan or the United Arab Emirates, or?
In our case, what we had to make sure of that all our content is copyrighted. So we have contracts with the publishers. It's very clear. So not only in Jordan, also you can. Apple, for example, Google are also like kind of partners with our company, because we have our platform on Apple Play Store, on Google Play Store. So not even in Jordan, everywhere in the world, wherever Abjad is there, we have to prove that we have copyrights for this content and that our subscription actually gives what promises the readers. So this is the only thing that we had to make sure of. And of course, this is done without saying. It's like we're actually fighting against piracy. So the first thing we did is that we started signing the contracts with the publishers, and of course we do revenue share with them.
Okay. So on the legislation and on the corporate structure and employment and so on, and I'm glad Iman covered the copyrights on the publishing part. Yes, I mean, this business is global, and you can be anywhere and operate anywhere else. So, you can start an idea in Jordan, but then you can go to the Cayman Islands and register a company, or register it in Jordan. I mean, you have to be competitive competitive in terms of ease of startup, registration of the company, in terms of governance and reporting, in terms of tax system. All of these, they do vary from one country to another in the region, and some of them are not very friendly. They're getting better. For example, in Jordan, they just issued a law for venture companies, and they gave them an exemption from tax just to enable more VCs to come into the market, and exempted them on their capital gain of their VCs investments. So there are attempts to assist in producing this ecosystem. It is not perfect, but it's coming there somewhere. Even the labor force. I mean, today with the websites like Upwork and similar, you can be in Jordan or anywhere else and hiring and outsourcing your business to someone sitting in India or in Singapore or in Egypt or in Germany or in the US, and just doing the same job. So these also, in my opinion, the big picture is not clear for the legislators and the regulators, but it will become clearer as we move forward, because with this business being global, I mean, you can go anywhere and operate and just cover any region. So I hope I answered the question, and with Iman.
I think there was the comment also goes in the direction about economic platforms like trade platforms, but maybe we can ask Ines to cover that a little bit as well. So if looking at the time, Iman,
thank you. We're done. Please, I hand it over to you. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And next, Ines. So we switched the continent now, going from Asia to North Africa, and Ines will give us an overview on how the digital business and the platform topic is picking up in Tunisia.
Okay, good. Thank you, Professor Iyad, for the invitation again. I will try to share my screen, and I don't know if you can see.
Yeah, I think you have to go in presentation mode, otherwise it's yeah. I think we see Sicily, but yeah, it has to be.
I don't know if okay. I think I'll just do something. I'm having two screens, so I'll just take out the screen up. Okay.
Okay.
Can you see now my screen?
Yeah, it's just, I think let's move ahead. I think it's a big, it's a bit huge for the screen, but maybe you can make it smaller. Is that possible?
Okay, okay. So now? No.
Try to make the best of it. I think if we see half of it, it's okay. You can give the words to it.
Okay, but you can. Are you seeing now my? Okay, wait. I think I know the problem. Okay. Basic. Let's go basic now. Sorry for this. Okay. Now I think better.
Yeah, perfect. Let's go.
Perfect. Good. Thank you again for the invitation. I will be today focusing more on the Tunisian platform economy, and I wouldn't say it's a very positive overview. It's more a very neutral research perspective. So as you can see here, we have recently published our first white paper on the Tunisian platform economy at ECDF. So I work at Einstein Center Digital Future, and this is a collaboration between ECDF and GIZ. And the first white paper was published in October. Okay, so, okay. So as you can see here, the digital business in Tunisia is still in its infancy. I don't know what's happening here. Okay. And the look into the numbers clearly hints at this. So here, if you see the numbers, they are quite, let's say, a bit small. 44% as the World Bank, these are the numbers of the World Bank, 44% of the population use mobile brands. 7% made only purchases or paid bills online. And the major international platforms are not operating in Tunisia. Those are World Bank numbers and the global financial inclusion data. Some of the numbers are higher now because of COVID. So I think the numbers are higher in terms of online payments and paying bills online. Also, these numbers do not cover Facebook Marketplace, because I think lots of online purchases are made in Tunisia and probably in the MENA region as well through Facebook Marketplace, but we don't have any numbers from that. And also the 44%, this is a World Bank number, but Oxford Business Group published in 2019 a number that says 55% of Tunisians are using internet from their mobile, so mobile broadband. And of course, the major international platforms are not operating in Tunisia, like Uber, TaskRabbit, Amazon, which is not the same as probably in Jordan or in Dubai or in any other countries. So as you can see, it's lagging, and we will explore together the status quo, challenges and opportunities ahead. Actually, Tunisians in 2010 started leveraging the use of Facebook and social media to blog against the regime. That was in 2010. And at the same time, it marked the birth of the first platform in Tunisia, which is called Tayara.tn, which is not a Tunisian platform. It's owned by Norwegian Schibsted Media Group, but the team is Tunisified. So all the team are Tunisians. The leadership is also Tunisian, but it's not a Tunisian platform. So, and this is a marketplace for local private resales of spare goods, like eBay, in Germany. How do we call it? eBay. There is a German name for that. And then in 2014, we have Jumia. Jumia is an African, actually, as you know, it's an African unicorn. they have a presence in Tunisia and in all the Maghreb region, actually, Jumia, Morocco, Algeria, and Tunisia. We have also other logistics platforms like eFret and Bolt and Intigo. These are mobility and logistics platforms. Bolt is actually an Estonian platform, and they actually made it somehow to Tunisia just because they are working with local taxis. So they're not working, or they're not, let's say, employing private drivers. And lately, as the COVID happened, as a COVID response, there was a launch of La Portefeuille Digital, the virtual wallet solution, which was trying to, let's say, distribute financial aid to destitute people during COVID. And this was like the first mobile payment in Tunisia that was launched in May 2020 as a COVID response.
Just Ines, I think we don't see the slide you're talking about, but maybe that's not very important.
Can you see the timeline?
No, you have to move ahead. So we still see the slide with the 44%, but it's not important. Just go ahead. I think we don't have too much time to figure that out. Just for you to be aware that we don't see the slides.
Sorry for this again.
So maybe in Ines, while you are looking for slides, an interesting question, if I may interrupt at that time, wasn't that a big opportunity for Tunisian companies? I mean, if Amazon and all the internationals are blocked, isn't that on the other hand an opportunity for local platforms? Wasn't that also a positive thing, or what was the reaction to that?
Yeah, actually, it's a positive thing because it gives them like this first mover advantage. So if these international platforms are blocked from entering the Tunisian market, it gives them a first mover advantage. But again, there are other problems and legal restrictions that I will be showing later. Can you now see the slides with the timeline?
No. Maybe if it doesn't work, just because we don't have too much time left anyway.
Yes. Now,
yeah, that's now we can see it.
Yeah. So this is actually what I was speaking about. These are the platforms: Tayara, Jumia, eFret, Bolt, and again the Portefeuille Digital that was launched as a COVID response. So again, sharing platforms have thus been very underrepresented, but we will know why they are underrepresented, mainly for two major reasons: inadequate financial infrastructure. This is, I think, very relevant to all the MENA region countries: non-convertible dinar, the digital infrastructure, and the financial inclusion, or you can also call it financial exclusion. And then the second reason is low degree of digitalization. Here we mean by limitation of digital business to urban areas. And here I will be showcasing an empirical assessment based on Tayara.cn supply data. So the non-convertible dinar actually is alienating Tunisian from the global economy. And I think it's probably the same case as in Jordan. Exchange embargoes are in place on cross-border payments. As you can see here, local and international platforms, they cannot make payments in other currencies other than Tunisian dinars. There are exceptions, of course. I think with the Startup Act in Tunisia, companies are now allowed to buy foreign goods from foreign companies up to 30,000 euros per year. For people, normal people, citizens, there is also a threshold. It's called a tourism allowance threshold of approximately 2,000 euros. And then in Tunisia also there is an issuance of La Carte Technologique, technological card. And this is mainly for students, researchers to buy software apps that help them in their research or in software development, to buy ICT products. So this is mainly the main issue. Now, this, as you can see in this figure, I hope you can see this figure, figure A. Here we have like a visual of the interaction between local and international platforms. So as you can see, there is a blockage of exchange from the side of businesses to international platforms, but also users, international platforms due to currency embargo. Again, internally inside Tunisia, businesses are using domestic platforms to offer, of course, either the infrastructure, the infrastructure and access to user base. The transactions are settled either through credit cards or in cash. Now, again, Tunisia is a cash society, and with a slow pace of innovation. And the main problem is the monopolistic banking system. So we have 65% of Tunisians who still prefer to pay payment upon delivery in cash. And this is mainly due to concerns of good, like the good quality, reliability of delivery. You mentioned this earlier, Professor Iyad, due to logistics and infrastructure and delivery issues, but also there is also still lack of regulatory infrastructure to demand refunds. And 37% of users still mention that payment security is still a barrier for online purchases. So one of the probably key things for platforms to work on is how to build trust, actually, gain the trust of users to use more platforms, but also use payment systems, digital payment systems. Now, the thing that is still a taboo in Tunisia is this banking innovation and banking system. We have 27 banks in Tunisia. So when you hear the word 27 banks, you think that normally there is a competition. But the thing is, they act under monopolistic competition. And this is the reason why we don't have innovation in the banking system. Online and mobile banking services are still limited and costly. I still remember that I had to pay actually money to check my balance, my balance online. So it's still limited and also very costly. And the main issue in Tunisia is this financial exclusion. We have almost 5.5 million unbanked adults. So mainly 47% of the population do not have bank accounts due again to regulatory and cost requirements. It costs a lot to open a bank account, but also banks in Tunisia are well known for this, let's say, snobbish view. So if you don't have so it's not really open for everyone. The access is limited to a very certain, let's say, social class. However, there are still promising recent efforts for digital wallets and financial inclusion innovation, as I said, with this COVID-19 digital portfolio solution by the government, which is a mobile e-wallet to send social aid to the vulnerable people. And what they did, they had 4,000 distributing spots, ATMs, using their phones to just, be able to, they get an SMS and then they get the money from these ATMs. Actually, what is, let's say, the positive thing and let's say promising thing in Tunisia, we have the Tunisian Post, which is leading the way actually towards inclusion. It's they have more than 1,062 offices, so it's a wide postal offices network, and the target of the 5 million people who don't have bank accounts, most of them, they would have actually a postal account. And actually now the Tunisian Post is currently waiting for approval from the central bank in Tunisia to be allowed to become a financial bank. So, and if this happens, if they take the approval, this will be another step forward, hopefully, towards financial inclusion. There is the e-dinar, which is a digital currency in Tunisia. We were, I think, one of the few people since 2000 who launched this e-dinar, which is a digital wallet, which is an e-wallet. But unfortunately, we didn't take the most out of it, and it was blocked. And as I will show later, it was blocked by banks in Tunisia. And yeah, I will show later why this is happening.
Ines, just allow me a comment. Looking at the time, can you try to wrap it up? Maybe.
Okay. Sorry.
I'm sorry.
Okay, it's fine. So again, there are new players like Flusi, Payment Service, and PayMe. I can probably skip this. This is a very interesting slide. Actually, we made an empirical assessment of the supply of Tayyara to understand the problem of platforms, but I can later share the slides with everyone. So maybe what I can how can I wrap it up? Yeah, recently, as I said, this was the signing of the Portefeuille Digital in 2020. Again, I think the main solutions we have been suggesting is banking integration of excluded economic players, facilitating the digitalization of process of banking and payment system, decashing. The real problem in Tunisia is cash. We need to decash. It will also help eliminating, hopefully, corruption. And again, we can foster e-commerce through the inclusion of the 5 million unbanked. And the last policy implications that we think of, and I think one of the participants asked about this, we believe that cross-border payments, we believe that the government in Tunisia need to address, first of all, local payment solutions. So push for more fintech startup to act and be innovative. And then we can, after 2 years, we can address the cross-border payments subsequently, because this is a very macroeconomic issue that's not easy to handle. And then we also believe that open banking regulations and the use of open APIs can boost innovation in the banking system. It happened actually with Flusi, this new fintech, but they were pushed actually to partner and collaborate with incumbent banks. Because the legislation again does not allow for fintech to be present. What they did as a strategy is to collaborate with incumbent banks, and then break the monopoly of SMT. And here I can show you, this is my final slide. This is the Tunisian, let's say, digital payment solutions key stakeholders. As you can see, the regulator is the central bank. And as you can see, there is a conflict of interest. And this is the contention, let's say, the bone of contention in the Tunisian economy as a whole. So the central bank in Tunisia is a shareholder in this company called SMT, Société Monétique Tunisienne. And also La Poste Tunisienne is also a shareholder. And these two, and the SMT actually is playing this monopoly, and they are blocking any innovation in the digital payment system. They are blocking fintechs and new players to enter the market. And this is mainly the limbo we are into. And that's why I think platform economy is still in its infancy, if we can say. Yeah.
Thank you, Ines.
I'm sorry for the technical issues again.
No, everything is fine. Thank you very much, Ines. So it appears to be that you started with platforms and you ended up in discussing the structure of the Tunisian banking system. So one doesn't work without the other, obviously. Mm-hmm. And then you still would have the question is, what will happen once the big international platforms will try to enter the Tunisian market? So that's also, I would say, a pending question, isn't it? Are there any more questions for Ines at that point? if not, and looking to the time, and my apologies, Ines, for pressing you a little bit,
Okay.
would be to ask Cynthia Aboukhata to give us her presentation about smart production in the Arab world. Ines, thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, so hi everyone. Don't worry, I can make my presentation in 5 minutes. In the concern of time, I will try to, if you want, summarize the situation of automation in the Arab world. So first of all, thank you for having me, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to share a little bit of our work. What we do is basically, we are a family business. We work in the design, automation, design, production, manufacturing, installation, and commissioning of automation lines, everything related to production automation lines. Everything you see in this picture was designed, produced, and installed by our team. And this is a dairy plant in Qatar. So basically, we do everything related to complete automation and also end-of-line machines and production. Basically, I'm going to be discussing about the automation market from our perspective as a company. Based on our data, historically, the two largest markets in the region for production automation were the KSA, Saudi Arabia market, and the United Arab Emirates. Recently, in the last 7 years, also picked up a lot. Most of the projects were basically in the FMCG sector, fast-moving goods, and especially in our area, it was dairies. We are experts in dairies factories. And then most of the work done in automation in the region was based with multinationals. As you can see, these are some of our key customers in the region and around the world, because we also have a factory in Poland that we opened 2 years ago. And this week we incorporated a company in Canada. So basically we are also providing globally through our multinationals. So most of the projects in the region were done through multinationals. And many of the projects were either funded by the government or owned by the government. And we are talking basically of big automation plants. So the drivers for automation in the region, you know, there's before COVID and after COVID. Before COVID, the drivers for automation were basically related to speed. We want to have more production, more output of our products, and quality, especially when it comes to food. So they wanted to have a really good quality, and then with less human touch, if you want, related to the product, especially in the beginning of the lines. And the other driver, of course, for automation was money. You had to have big funds available for you to be able to automate your products, because we're talking here huge capex, especially if this is for large production lines. Now, after COVID, a shift we are witnessing in automation, and this is a wonderful driver, that even in markets where we have low labor costs, let's say like in Egypt, we're witnessing a really high increased demand for automation for two reasons. First of all, because of COVID, some factories face the stoppage of their lines. And in order to have sustainability and reliable line production, they needed to have it either automated or semi-automated, and also to reduce the people on the line. So because of social distancing, and if people had to be, based on the COVID regulation, they had to be far from each other. So, and sometimes you have 10 or 15 people working together on the line if it's manual line. So they needed to move these people for social distancing. Now, the good thing is, and the good news is, that there is also demands for robotics. So in the last few years, our company alone installed more than 100 robots in the region. In relation to robotic solutions, mainly in palletizing and in the end of line. And we're introducing now everything related to cobot. You talked, Dr. Ayad, about the cobots, the collaborative robots, and with the human. So far we are quoting for cobots in the region, but we don't have any cobots yet installed. We have them installed in Europe. And it's a fact that mostly Europe is a bit like, based on my understanding and based on my experience, usually technology in Europe is 5 years ahead from the region. Of course, this is increasing fast because of internet, because of technologies, because of people being more educated and having high skills. But normally, we are like 5 years behind Europe and the industrial world, which is, I think, is a good thing. And this is also an average. It depends, because you have the first, like the leaders of the industry who always follow the really, we have wonderful factories with really top-notch standards. And then you have the average. And then, of course, you have the factories that are lagging. A thing we are witnessing also in the region, which is still very shy, which is all the requests for Industry 4.0 solution, everything related to IoT, Internet of Things, IoT, which is Internet of Things, remote assistance, and then everything related to augmented reality. It's a bit still shy in our part of the world. We have already installed few projects, mostly in the United Arab Emirates. They are related to SCADA and Internet of Things, basically for track and trace applications. But in order for us to be able to reach the lights out factory you talked about, Dr. Riyad, in your opening, we need to have a certain transition. We cannot jump from where we are now automatically to the light out factories, which is, we need first to have leadership commitment. Leadership had to understand why we are doing this, why the smart factories, why we need to move into this. Second of all, we have to change our mindset, because we need to work differently with the tools and differently with the solutions. And third of all, we have to look at our processes from a different perspective. We cannot just take the process how it is now and then simply automate it and then simply add the Industry 4.0 solution to it. So all these things have to be processed before then applying the technology. And then this is really moving very fast, because also now in Europe, they're starting, because of the technologies, and you mentioned Siemens, one of the things also Siemens is working on today is to be able to provide equipment as a service, like software as a service, whereas instead of paying the high capex, we usually pay $1 million, $2 million for the whole automation plant, they are actually customers, our customers, B2B, are paying for the output. They pay on numbers of production on their products. And this is the shift moving forward, will allow and enable smaller companies to have more automation, to allow the transition fast. So of course, yes, automation is the future. I'm going to skip this slide and move to this slide, because you talked a lot about employment. And you talked about how it will be reduced and how automation will be reducing people. The way I see it, because of course I had this ethical dilemma myself. I'm in a company that's actually destroying people's job, and how is this going to happen? So basically, the way I see it is that we're not actually removing jobs or reducing jobs. And if you can see, based on this is from McKinsey report, how the number of billions of wages, the 366 billion in wages in dollars, this automation is going to create. And this is going to be actually a shift in energy, a shift in skills, a shift in new jobs created. And here I would like to give the example of agriculture. You talked also about agriculture. If you remember our ancestors, like from history book, everybody used to work in agriculture. And then the tractors started, and then other automation solutions started. And now you have less people working agriculture in the world, whereas we eat better. We have fruits all year long, not only seasonal fruits, because we import with other countries. So basically, what automation will add actually is it will add a better way of living for everyone. For the simple reason is that consumers today are more demanding. They are demanding in terms of quality. They are demanding in terms of the products they use. I mean, the shampoo I'm purchasing, or the yogurt I'm purchasing, or any product I am purchasing, I'm very demanding to make sure it was done in an ethical way, not in some factory using child labor or like really inhumane labor functions. Second of all, it has to be sustainable and eco-friendly. And third of all, it's important for me as a consumer to know from where it came. And all the new technologies that Industry 4.0 provide and the smart factories of the future provide will allow that. So it's a fact, whether companies like it or not, consumer behavior will be shifting companies to move into automation and then to move into smart factories. And here there's a huge role, like Ines was talking, and when you talked also about it in your opening word, related to government and policies. I think we really need to be smart about it, to be smart on how to ride this wave of change in a way that is ethical, that is human, and that will make sure we will save the people, because most of the people who will be affected by this are basically the low wages people. as government, we need to create policies to make sure they go to the right education, technical education, or having the right skills accessible to them. As companies also, like you said, we have to pay taxes to be able to allow for the other creative jobs, because it's a fact that every repetitive job, redundant job, and even unsafe activities, whether from an ergonomic perspective or unsafe from a human perspective, we have seen a lot of troubles and factors related to human, if you want, human treating of people because of how we force them to be able to produce. All this will be eliminated eventually. And then we will have new jobs where you have more analytical skills, where you have more artistic skills, or where it's creative, and then we will have better products. And obviously, eventually it will be better for the environment also. I'm sorry I have to rush this because I had the concern of time, but I can elaborate for one more week if you want. So if you have any questions or anything you would like to tell me, I'm here for you.
Thank you very much. So to summarize, before we wait for questions to come in, is that you think that automation could be launching like an industrial revolution in the Arab world?
Yes.
Question mark. Also, I see it fascinating that COVID has been supporting that, and that's a phenomenon that's happening all over the world. People want to take out a human work because it could interfere with the production process if COVID continues and something like that. What I also find interesting that you start thinking about the impacts on humans and wages. And in fact, this has been a debate that is going on in Europe since the 1970s, where, for instance, trade unions have tried to intervene in the process of automation, and they were never successful. But they could sometimes delay automation to some extent, but they could never prohibit it. And I think the same will come true in the Arab world. However, one must say the difference between the Arab region and Europe is that in Europe you have a better social network, so to say, which takes care of you in case you get redundant or you have to reskill yourself. And I think this will then probably be a debate that will happen in the Arab world as well.
Yeah, but you know, Dr. Ayad, I think this is a wonderful opportunity because the world is changing, and like Ines discussed and Ahmed discussed, we need new skills. We need, you know, like there are majors and universities today that did not exist 10 years ago, like data analysts, like, I don't know, people who work on architecture for platforms. So these are jobs that did not exist before and are existing. And I'm sure by the time our kids will go to university, there will be jobs that don't exist today. So if you want, it's a shift for people to focus on different things, and we leave all the repetitive, unsafe acts, and we can do it in a better way, more economical way, more eco-friendly way, and a more customized way.
Yeah. Are there any questions from the audience on that?
Not in the chat.
Yeah. All right. If there are no questions, I think all of us can be reached some way or another afterwards if there are questions. I want to say thank you to all of you. I was very impressed, and I said before, I have been in this kinds of talks since 3 or 4 years, and they are getting, you can really feel the speed that is happening also in the Arab world. So the topics and the experiences are really mind-blowing and moving ahead very, very fast. This is not to say that there will not be tons of problems ahead, but I think coming from the regions, this is what people are used to, and are probably more used to than in Europe. So I'm still very, very optimistic about that. Having said that, thank you very much to all of you, and also thank you to the audience for showing up. And hope to see you again soon. Thank you very much. Take care.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.